Thank you for the UNESCO for inviting me, and thank you for all the audience. Today I will talk about Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Thank you, Val. So Bab el-Mandeb Strait, current situation and economic impact in Yemen. Next. But before I jump to Bab el-Mandeb Strait, let me talk about the world choke points. We have eight main choke points in the world. These choke points are basically like a route to connect all the international market. It's mainly very important for the food and energy. So all the market is provided by food and energy through these choke points. It's also essential for fertilizer, for example. So whenever you want to go to a farm and farm your garden, you need a fertilizer, of course. These fertilizers are coming from these routes or the shipping trade that is coming from these choke points. Also, the poor countries, they take their food aid from the trading lanes in these choke points. Any interruption in these choke points will have an impact on the prices of the oil and gas and food. Keeping these choke points stable is equal to sustaining stable economy. Bab el-Mandeb Strait is one of these important choke points because, first of all, it connects Asia, Africa, all the way to Europe. And also, it reduces the time. Instead of going to the Cape of Good in Africa all the way to America, it's actually reduced the time. Next, please. Bab el-Mandeb Strait, or as they say, it's called the Gate of Tears. There are many legends that says, why is it called the Gate of Tears? It's called the Gate of Tears. One of the stories that I would like to believe in is because of the hard navigation system. When you pass through this lane, it's hard to navigate. That's why it's called the Bab el-Mandeb or the Gate of Tears. Bab el-Mandeb has a very strategic point or area for a long time, but the most important event that it changed the Bab el-Mandeb Strait or its strategic point, it's the opening of Suez Canal. The second very important event that happened in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait is the oil trade from the Strait of Hormuz. Unfortunately, Bab el-Mandeb is also have a bad time, like for example, piracy, or the military intervention by Saudi-led intervention in Yemen against Houthi, and it's still ongoing war. These choke points have interruptions sometimes because of weather, climate, political, but Bab el-Mandeb specifically, it has a security and conflict issue. Next. Bab el-Mandeb Strait, as you can see, this is not the world map. Unfortunately, this is Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and you can see all the military bases that they're trying to take, like to control or secure their interest, let's say, in Bab el-Mandeb. Next, please. As I said, Bab el-Mandeb has a very advantage because it works like a two-way highway for a shipping lane, and it reduced the time shipping. It's a trade between Asia, it connects Asia, Africa, and Europe. In Yemen, there is this, as you can see in the map, there is this small island that it's called Perim Island, and it's working like a looking overview of the shipping lane. It controls the shipping trade. One of the most important events that happened in Bab el-Yemen because of Yemen, in Bab el-Mandeb because of Yemen, it's when Yemen blocked this trade, when there is this war against Israel, and they blocked this trade. Another event that happened in Yemen is Yemen found oil and gas, so they start exporting it to the world. There are also events that happen, but the ongoing one is, again, the Saudi-led intervention in Yemen against Houthis. Next, please. Unfortunately, the war is still ongoing. It's also, we can say, like Yemenis really realize that they have a good connection or a strong connection to the sea, because It hurt them so much what's happening in their sea, economically, socially. It really had a negative, massive impact in the country or for the people too. Let me start with some sectors that maybe I can show you how bad it gave an impact to the people. Let's start with the fishery sector, for example. The red circles that you see are cities that they have a high population it has a high population, and three of these cities are in the Red Sea coastline. The people there, they usually go to the sea, fish, and come back, and then they sell their fish to the locals. According to the Yemeni statistics, individuals who are in the Yemeni sector or the fishery sector are 79.2%. The private sectors are only 13.8 and 2.7 only international investors. So 18% of the coastal economy are relying on the fishing sector. Because of the situation, unfortunately, 50% of these fishermen decided not to go to the sea because they are targeted. A moving ship or a moving small boat is a target for the military ships. The other 50% that they decided and be brave to go to the sea and fish, they actually have another challenge, which is the high fuel prices. Next, please. The ports and military presence. 90% of the Yemenis depends on commercial food imports. So once you block these ports in the Gulf of Aden and Red Sea, you block the whole people from food. So they have now food insecurity. They have shortage in medical resources and the high prices of the food. So even if they find food, it's 10 times the prices. Next, please. Energy, the sector. Unfortunately, Yemen, 25% of the Yemeni GDP was relying on oil and natural gas, and 65% of the government revenue was taken from the oil and natural gas. So it's like half of the money of the government was coming from the oil and gas ports. We have two main hubs, or I can call them ports, Ras Isa and Bilhaf, and it was exporting oil and natural gas to the world. Now these two ports are operated with different parties. Ras Isa is zero export, Bilhaf is operated by different party, and the absence of good and powerful governments is not regulating what's happening. Now there are two possible risks for oil spill that will destroy all the marine area, the marine environment under the sea. Next, please. As Dr. Maher already gave us this amazing presentation with all the information about the richness that we have in Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea and the biodiversity in the marine ecosystem, the red circles that you see in the map are we call them area of concern or marine protected areas that they have a high value for around the Yemeni coasts. And if any oil risk happens, it's going to kill the environment in this coastline. Also, it will take down with it the tourism sector. Yemen already lost in the last 3 years $4.5 billion. It's not just the marine tourism, or let's say the sea, and the tourism in the sea, it's in the whole country. But also the marine and the sea it was like people used to go and travel there and have fun because the sea is something special for them. And now it's all destroyed because if you go to the sea, it means you're gonna die. Next. Of course, now I'm talking about complex, but there is also happy stories in the Red Sea. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. It was a peace agreement, so once upon a time, in 1995, there was a conflict between Yemen and Eritrea, and then they went to the court to solve this problem for 4 years. They solved the problems because it was a conflict over the Hanaish Islands, but then they solved this conflict and they defined the maritime boundaries. These two countries, they talked about fishery sectors and the oil sector. And actually, in Yemen, they said, okay, if we're gonna extract oil from the sea, we need to go and talk to Algeria. And it's the same. So it was like communication. It was collaboration between these two countries, and they end up the conflict. And this was a happy ending story, let's say. Next, please. So coming to the maritime spatial planning. Thank you, Vera. You made my life easy. You already explained the MSP, or the Maritime Spatial Planning, that it's a public process to allocate the human activities in the marine areas to achieve ecological, economic, and social through a political process. So even if we start in a national level and we start doing MSP in a national level, it has an impact in the other countries, neighboring countries. So it's really important to communicate in a cross-border level and a transboundary level. And as we heard this amazing experience from the Baltic Sea by Angela, thank you very much for your amazing presentation. It's important that the national plans in the sea, on the other hand, but the cross-border and the transboundary level are important too. And in order to achieve it, we need to share and work together, and also the willingness to change, like we are willing to change. So the first, in my opinion, the first obstacle that we will face in the Red Sea is the trust and the transparency and collaboration. And remember, there is a fourth dimension in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, which is the international interests. So after we communicate together, we need also to share it to the world, to all these people who are, or the countries that they are worried about their interests in Bab el-Mandeb Strait. I would like to end up my presentation by saying this will benefit us by bringing peace, prosperity, and safety to the region. Thank you very much.